Okay, so this morning we're going to start a class in a position on the floor. So I'm going to use the block behind my head and just ease my way down. So chin in towards the chest and hands behind to guide yourself to the floor. Feel your spine unravel it a little bit as you come into that, and then wriggle the shoulders underneath and allow yourself to lift your hips a couple of times and lengthen out. And if you're clothing underneath is sort of pressing into the base of your spine, you might want to move your pants around a little bit in some way. And then I'm going to slowly just bring the heels towards my bottom and turn the soles of my feet in. Adjust my trousers there. And gradually let the knees open out to the side. As I do this, I want to try and keep my torso long or flat. Quite often when we're tight in the groin and we open the legs out to the side, we get this sort of flaring of the chest up towards the sky and the spine lifts a little. So we're going to try to concentrate on keeping the upper part of the body feeling very mellow and lengthened out and relaxed. And just to sort of help with the feedback, I'm going to keep my fingertips just on my belly. And checking in to see how my hips feel. Do they feel like they've moved down to the same degree on each side, or do I feel a bit lopsided? Do I feel tight in any particular area, or differences between one side and the other? The legs still feel like they're opening out. We've got about 50 seconds or so left. I'm going to try and keep that breath really soft, easy and smooth. And then from here, I'm going to take the hands underneath the thighs and just ease the legs back together again. So using the fingertips to bring the legs back in. I'll take the right knee into the chest, ease the hands around the shin, slide the left heel out. Try to get the heel and calf to the floor. Glutes flexed. Internally rotate the thigh a fraction just to bring the foot to point towards the sky. Try and lengthen out both sitting bones at the same time. Actually drawing the abdominal muscles in a little bit to help and assist with that. Release that leg, slide it down. Draw the other heel in slowly, off of the knee in. Just take a few breaths. Letting that knee come more towards the center line. Often when we do this pose, we take the knee out to the armpit, but since we've already done that big opening stretch, this is more centered. And we're lengthening out through the right and internally rotating again that thigh from the hip. Get a good sense of the toes pointing towards the sky, ideally without checking in and looking. It's more of a sensory perception that you're looking for. Drawing the sitting bones down. And then we'll slide both feet towards the bottom. Allow ourselves to take the hands wide, 90 degrees, palms facing up. And we're going to wiggle the feet out to the corner edges of the mat, knees together, and scissor the legs very gently over towards the left to start with. Turn the head the opposite way, keep the shoulders down. Try and let that bottom leg sink to the floor. And lifting back up, realigning if you need, and then slowly stretching over to the opposite side. Very relaxed and slow start to the class this morning. Bring the knees back to the center and then roll to whichever side you prefer to allow yourself to use your hands against the side of the mat to lift up. Just move the block out to the side as well whilst we're here. And let ourselves roll round. We'll come up onto all fours just temporarily to allow ourselves to come back down onto our bellies. We'll take some flowing low cobra. So we want the feet to be a little wider than the shoulders and the heels rolling out a little as the boot laces are down. We'll bring the hands more towards the bottom of the rib cage and squeeze the elbows together. On the inhale, just going to lift the chest. Try and keep the thighs and the feet attached to the floor, exhaling down. So I find as I lift up, the temptation is for the heels to start migrating back into the center. So I have to concentrate quite a lot on rotating the heels out, opening out the lower back widthways across the back of the pelvis. I'm conscious to only lift as far as the bottom rib being in contact with the floor. And also careful not to pull on the neck. I get a vague squeaky feeling as my feet slide backwards and forwards on the flooring. I hope it's that, not my back. So I'm going to come up for the last time. And then tuck the toes underneath. Peel away from the floor. Bring myself up onto all fours. Just make sure the knees come underneath the hips. Spread the fingers out, hands are underneath the shoulders. A couple of rounds of cat-cow. Just easing the chest forwards, tailbone towards the sky. Rotating that pelvis the opposite way. The tailbone down. And tailbone up for forwards. Allowing myself to press into the hands and the shins. Stretching the middle and upper back out a little more. Just working with a very slow breath. Your breath doesn't have to be as slow as mine, or it can be even slower. It's very much a personal sensation, that stretch and movement. We're just looking to open the muscles up, get some juice into the discs. And then we'll come into a neutral position and just tuck the toes underneath and sit back down onto the heels. Get that little bit of a stretch into the feet that we love. You can allow yourself to lift up if you wish, but we're not really staying here very long this morning. So I'm pressing into the hands a little bit to give me that extra pressure, to sort of simulate the idea of me lifting my weights up above my feet. Okay, keeping the belly drawn in. Allow the hands to come right into the front edge of the mat. Allow myself to move shoulders over wrists, lift the knees away. I'm almost into a plank, and then lifting into the down dog. Just checking the feet at hip distance apart and parallel. Hands are flat to the floor. You can walk the legs out gently if that feels good, or you can stay in that sort of vanilla version where we just stay static. You can turn the armpits down towards the floor a little bit, whilst keeping the index knuckle of both hands very firmly attached to the floor. Sometimes taking a little look does help. Just slowly letting the shoulders open out. And from this down dog position, I'll take the feet as wide as the mat. Walk the hands back in and turn the heels very slightly in as I squat down. About a half squat, so I'm looking to get my bottom about level with the knees. I can let the spine round at this point. The fingers on the floor, head is hanging down as well. Strongly flexors. And then we're slowly going to use the legs to press out. Keep the spine now nice and rounded, the belly drawn in. Going to lift up. And take the hands out wide as I inhale. Bring the hands up above my head and towards my heart. Allow us to zigzag the toes into about hip distance apart, parallel, hinge over the hips. Soften the knees as you need to. Bring the fingertips to the floor, ribs and thighs connect. Bring the hands back onto the ribs and we'll lift back up again. So bring the hands up towards the sky. This time we'll interlace the hands. Index finger rises and we'll take it into a little bit of a back bend. Then we'll come forwards again. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Use an exhale to come back down, drawing the belly in. Weight into the toes. And way down. Hands onto the hips again. Let ourselves lift up slowly. Just noticing that transfer of weight through the feet. Hands above the head, index finger links. We'll take another back bend. Pressing down through the feet. Hips back a little bit. Come back into the center. Hands towards the heart. We'll come down to the floor. And this time we'll walk the fingers into the front of the mat. So we can move from down dog position to lift up on the tippy toes and just take that slow walk with the feet into the front of the mat. Let ourselves hang a couple of breaths. Just enough time to take the top off. As I realised I was too wet. I overcooked that this morning. Okay, we'll bring the hands onto the hips again. Let ourselves lift. Hands in towards the heart as we breathe in. Exhaling down. Going to come into a forward fold. And then take the right foot back. Drop the heel in, ready for warrior two. Hands along the thighs. Right hand comes forwards to lift us up. Or you can bring the hands onto the thighs to lift you. Use your energy the way you need to. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Now rotate the chest and hips, spin the heel of the back foot up a little bit. There's a little pause there as you find your balance. Lengthen out, hands to the floor. We step it back into our down dog, adjusting the feet as we need to. We come forwards into plank. We're going to take half plank and up dog. Legs just change. Legs are strong. Hips lift high. We roll back into that down dog. And we'll take the right knee into the chest. Bring the foot through for lunge. Roll the shoulders back, strong back legs. Press off the heels into the forward fold. Hands onto the hips, and we'll lift. We'll do that same thing to the second side. This time the left arm comes forwards. Get that nice turn in the chest to the long side of the mat. Back leg pressing down. Hands come into the heart. Rotate. Spin the heel. Check our balance. Lengthen out. Keeping the belly drawn in a little. Hands softly come to the floor. Step back into our dog. Come forwards. Plank. Half plank. Shoulders back. Elbows tucked in tidily. From up dog to down dog, lifting the hips high. Couple of breaths here. And we'll draw the left knee in. Bring the foot through. And exhale to the front of the mat. Folding deep. Hands onto the hips. We take a breath in and use the exhale to lift. Hands into the heart. Exhale into the floor. We're taking the right foot back again, dropping the heel in. Hands lift alongside the body. Allow ourselves to take warrior two. Hands this time directly above the shoulders, palms facing. I'm going to turn the entirety of the body and spin the back heel. Draw the belly in a little bit, tailbone down to the floor. So you're trying to take any compression out of the lower back just by tilting the pelvis forwards a little. We'll lower the hands down to the floor. This time, I'm going to step back into our down dog. Allow ourselves to come forwards into plank. Knees to the floor. Untuck the toes and sit all the way back into child's pose. Now press down into the shins, round the spine as you lift back up onto all fours. Tuck the toes underneath, and then we'll press the hands into the floor to lift the hips back up into that down dog. We'll draw the right knee in towards the chest. Bring the foot through for lunge. A breath. And a press off the toes to the front of the mat. Hands on the hips. Let ourselves lift. Take that again to the second side. Hands to the heart. Exhale down. Left foot back. Dropping the heel in. Hands alongside the body. Left arm comes through. Drive through that bottom leg. Arms rise as you breathe. Rotate on the exhale and pause. The tailbone tucked down to the floor. A little tilt of the pelvis. Just giving yourself more neutral. Quite often we find that we need to square the hips as well a little bit, so you might draw the front thigh back a little bit and turn more towards the front of the mat to get squarer. And then we'll lower the hands to the ground gently, step it back, step down dog, Go forwards into the plank. Knees to the ground as we untuck toes. Roll back. All into that child's pose. Use the exhale to press down through the shins and a round spine into neutral. Tuck the toes. Allow ourselves to lift into our down dog. Draw the left knee into the chest. Bring the foot through. Push off the toes for that forward fold. Hands can come on the hips. We'll lift up. And towards the sky. Through the heart. And we'll just shake that all out a little bit. You need to find the block. So no other easy way of getting it to the front other than picking it up. And just having that around there in front of us. We'll move it to where we want to, a little more refined once we come into the work. Hands in towards the heart. And exhale down to the floor. Taking the right foot back. This time heel is high. I'm going to let the hands come away from the floor. Just bring them alongside the body. So we want to start to really press out through the back heel, straight leg. We're thinking of a line between the shoulders, hips, and the back heel. Front knee over the ankle. We'll take both hands out in front and line them up with the torso following that line. Stretch out through the fingertips. And draw the belly in a little. Square the hips to the front of the mat. Then bring the hands back down to the floor. Little power lunge for the power crazy. Hands come onto the hips, that forward fold. We'll lift up. Bring hands in towards the heart. Exhale down again. And we're taking the left foot back. Heel is high. We find our balance point. Use the hands away from the floor. Find the line. Square the hips to the front of the mat. So that's usually this front hip moving back a little. And then slowly taking the hands out. So feeling all the muscles in the legs working pretty hard. Last breath. Hands to the floor. Whew. Build some heat. And step it into that fold. Hands come onto the hips. We let ourselves lift. Hands come high. Through the heart. Exhale to the floor. Step the right foot back and drop the heel in. Going to bring the block onto the inside of this front thigh by the side of the foot. Allow myself to take a little breath. I'm going to bring my left hand onto the block. Slowly straighten the left front leg. Bring the right hand away from the floor onto my hip and then onto the base of my spine. Allow myself to turn my chest to the long side of the mat. And take the hand then towards the sky. Opening the chest out. Sending the hips back a little. Now soften the front knee. And allow myself to lift gently into my warrior two. Try and relax the shoulders. Then I'm going to extend out over that front thigh and bring the hand and the forearm just onto the inside of the thigh. So I'm going to press my forearm into the thigh and the thigh back. So start to feel that through the groin a little bit. The top arm I'm going to take towards the sky and lift up first to 12 o'clock. So I'm going to get a stretch up there and feel that down the latissimus dorsi muscle. Turn the palm forwards and extend the arm out, following the natural line of the body. Trying to keep the chest open and the hips underneath. We'll come back to warrior two. Hands into the heart. Rotate the body. Hands come to the floor. We'll spin the back heel. Bring it into that forward fold. And then bring the hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift. The legs are starting to warm up and lengthen out. You should be able to get quite low to the floor now. Or get the legs a little straighter than when we first started. Slightly different story if the class is in the evening. We're going to take the left foot back and drop that heel in. Allow ourselves to bring that block in against the inside of that front foot. Right hand comes on. Take a slow lift as we straighten the front leg. Ease the hand around to the base of the spine. Press down through the big toe joint on the front foot to keep it stable. Allow ourselves to gently take this top arm up, again reaching up to 12 o'clock. So there's a certain amount of lift away from the block. We're not resting fully on it. There to help as a guide, really, just so that we come into the pose the same distance on both sides. Trying to turn the chest and the hips towards the sky a little bit. Taking one more breath. Soften into that front knee. Ease ourselves into our warrior two. Gradually feeling the hips stabilizing, finding balance. It's quite a big change in the hip joint from triangle pose to warrior two. So we're just letting the body kind of absorb that a little bit. And then allow ourselves to come into the extended side angle where we'll draw forwards. That forearm presses into the thigh, the front knee stays over the ankle. Top arm lifts up. We're going as high as we can with the stretch. Then turning the palm forwards and extending it out. Back foot is still pressing down. Front leg is loaded. Chest is rotated. Looking to the armpit of this top arm. Try and draw the shoulders back a little bit. One more breath. And lifting back out. Warrior two. Whew. Hands into the heart, we rotate. Use the hands down to the floor. We'll just move the block out of the way and step ourselves back into a down dog. Bring ourselves into plank. Knees to the floor. Untuck the toes. Back into child's pose. Narrow stance for the knees. We'll take the hands down towards the toes. Hopefully the head is on the ground, or you can slip the block underneath. Enjoying a nice stretch in the middle back as you breathe. Feeling the back ribs opening with the breath. Try and keep it long and slow. And there's a sense of smoothness come back to the breath. So to just walk the fingers forwards. Now I'm going to bring myself up onto my elbows, and I want my elbows to be at shoulder distance apart. And I've interlaced the hands. The little finger is tucked under. I'm going to slowly ease the legs back. I'm bringing myself into Sphinx pose. The bootlaces are down. I press into the forearms. Let the chest lift a little bit. Roll the shoulders back wide. Draw the belly in. Press the thighs down and away. Try and relax the buttocks as much as I can, at the same time keeping the work through the legs. And as we did before, we're going to try and turn the heels out just that fraction. And I'll take that a little further. I'm going to separate the hands and bring them into parallel. Take a little breath and then press the hands into the floor and see if I can lift my body a little higher to take the elbows away from the ground. So I'm coming into a stronger form of cobra pose. Try and keep the shoulders down, the shoulder girdle is strong, wide, belly's drawn in. Actually lifting the spine up out of the pelvis as much as I can. So it's not just all about pressing the hands down to the floor. I can ease back down. And as I come down, bring the hands underneath the chin. Allow myself to rock out through the hips from side to side. Relax the shoulders a little. And then I'm going to take a half frog pose here, keeping the feet that same distance apart as they were, about hip distance-ish. Going to the left leg to bend, bring the heel in towards the bottom. So I'm just going to walk the hand back and find the toes, and then press the palm down on the toes to bring the heel into the buttock. And try and bring that more into the sitting bone than the outside of the hip. And rotating the thigh a little bit. Chin stays on the ground. Just getting used to the stretch in the leg. And I can release. Do the same to the other side, so I'll just swap hands over and swap legs. Again, aiming to bring the heel towards the sitting bones. And keeping the hips as flat to the ground as I can. And I'll release from there as well. And shake out the legs a little from side to side. Through the hips, and then we're going to take bow pose. So I'm going to take both heels in towards the bottom, take both hands behind, and see if I can find the ankles. I'll do that one at a time. A bit of a bend through the spine as that happens. Chin on the ground. So I'm going to begin to flex the ankles. And as I exhale, I'm going to press the thighs down and the shins away. Let's see if I can get a little bit of a lift of the chest. As we lift up. And then once I've come as high as I think I can, we're just sending the shin bones away. I'm going to drive the soles of the feet towards the sky and see if I can get the front of the thighs to lift off the ground as well. There will be some rocking as you breathe. Last breath. And then we'll let the thighs come down, chin to the floor, release the feet very gently. Bring the hands to the bottom of the ribs, take a breath, roll the shoulders back, peel away from the floor, lift ourselves up slowly. We're going to move into a seated position on the heels to start with, just to allow the spine to kind of get over the work that we've just done, and move that block gently to the back of our seat. We can take the feet out to the side, move very gently back in, so everything moves nice and slowly. Just draw the flesh out a little bit. Take a moment into here in Dandasana. Hands by the side of the body, feet flex back. And we'll take a seated twist. We're going to bring the left foot under and out towards the right hip with the knee pointing forwards. And then bring the right foot across. Tilt the pelvis a little forwards. Knee is high, chest lifts. Going to take the twist with the left arm up and across to the right side. Allow yourself to look towards the rear shoulder. Ideally, I want to be able to connect both sitting bones to the floor and have a sense that I'm not leaning to the side or back or forwards excessively in any direction. I'm trying to get my spine to be as neutral and then just rotating around the axis. And we know that the spine has got a lot of curves in anyway, so it's only a feeling sensation that the spine is perfectly straight. And we can release from there. We'll take it to the second side. So bring the feet together first on the center line. Then wrap yourself around. The leg comes across. A little adjustment in the pelvis area. Lift. Right arm comes up. Went to the left twist. And release from there as well. Let myself come down to the floor. Use the block underneath the back of the head yet again. So knees high, chin in, hands behind to roll down, the spine open out as we do that. It's an extra little bit of mobility. Go out through the hips. Put the arms out wide, crucifix style. Going to shimmy the hips to the left a little. Roll the legs down onto the right. Let them float down. I'm going to use my right hand just to give that left thigh a little bit more weight to help draw it down. And try and roll the shoulders around and underneath to get them as flat to the floor as they can. And optionally turning the head the opposite way. Let the legs lift. Line. Shimmy to the right, legs to the left. Left hand comes up onto the thigh. Try and relax the body as much as you can. come back into the center again. Going to move very gently into Shavasana, so just sliding the heels out to the corner edges of the mat. And the legs roll open. Wriggling the spine, nice and long. All the shoulders, hips away, let those legs hang down. So we've actually incorporated some mobility, some flexibility, some strength, and some balance work this morning. Might not have recognized all of that, but technically we've brought all of that into our practice this morning. But hopefully feeling very unrushed. Let the shoulders sink, chest open, soften the jaw, eyes closed. Gently begin to stretch the fingers and toes. Allow the wrists and the ankles to join in. Taking some deeper breaths, allowing the body to feel connected. You can then stretch out in any way that feels good. And carefully slide the heels along the mat. Bring the legs back in towards the body. And we'll let the knees come in. Taking a gentle hug. A rock, stir, whatever feels good through the spine. And then we'll ease the legs over towards the right side, keeping them towards the body. Taking a breath on the floor. And the exhale, just pressing into the ground to lift up smoothly. Just forever taking an opportunity to be gentle with the spine when we can. Sitting up tall, bring the hands in towards our heart. We'll take the breath as we close our eyes. On the exhale, allow the chin to draw in towards the chest, the belly to the spine. Let that bow form, healing our practice. And inhale, lifting the head gently, slowly, letting the eyes open. Namaste. Have a wonderful day. See you on the mat soon.